Now, one interesting thing is that we also did a benchmark because not everybody believed me when I was saying that this is what we should be doing. And one of the guys, he took one of his MapReduce jobs that he'd also had in Hive, and the MapReduce and Hive were basically ballpark in 17 minutes to finish this one process. And Impala, which is kind of a limited sequel from Cloudera, was able to finish it in 2 minutes. Big improvement. But interestingly, Spark SQL did it in just a touch under 1 minute, and Spark directly coding it in Spark cut that in half. So when you figure, if you could take a process from 17 minutes to half a minute with no optimization, we're talking just this is benchmark, something right off the cuff. That type of reduction of the load on our system is huge. So improvement in our processing is, Spark plays a major role in that right now. It's kind of in our plans because it's worked out well. The downside is it takes some rethinking and some new skill sets, and people are, opening up Scala. And so there's all sorts of new challenges. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that we're moving definitely forward with.
Okay. And just to be clear, are you talking about Hive on Spark when you said directly on Spark?
Directly on Spark. We don't have Hive on Spark working yet. Okay. And it's just lack of time. Those guys are working hard at it, all the different folks involved in that. So I'm assuming that within 6 months, that'll be a real option.
Okay. And while we're talking about database stuff, is there any value to Presto? That's the SQL engine that Facebook open sourced last year. No.
Well, I don't know what you think, but I think there is. It's just, as a company, you only have so much time to look at things, okay. And you start introducing too many things. We're already getting a lot of things that we're looking at. Spark does so much for us right now that because you can do graph database work in it, and the ability to do machine language directly in Spark alongside your regular processing, that's huge. So we're looking at that as the initial effort we're doing. But the Facebook effort, they do a really good job. If somebody was starting from scratch right now and didn't have an infrastructure, I'd certainly be looking at it.
Yeah. Especially to get away from MySQL.
Yes.
This is at a company called Oracle. I hope no one from Oracle is here. So anyway, what about Storm and Kafka? I think there's increasing amount of interest, and I just don't know in production if there's anything to speak of there.
Don't mean to hog the mic. Sorry. So we have a lot of work that could be on Storm, but our problem is just the resources to set up a Storm topology and new tech efforts. So Spark Streaming has been how we're approaching it instead of going with Storm. As far as Kafka, we actually rely on Kafka. Kafka's part of our backbone. So.
Well, if you were reading VentureBeat.com last week, you would know that the creator of Kafka, Jay Krebs, now has a Kafka startup. And he has funding, so watch out for that. It's called Confluent.
Yeah,
so,
I read that actually.
Okay. All right, so let me just open it up a little and talk about kinds of data. And I think it's interesting to point to the phone, Jennifer, as the important place to capture data and do processing to some extent. And I actually think there are other kinds of data that can be more powerful in terms of playing music or doing analysis. And so to widen it out, I think David has this really interesting thesis that pictures are the way for people to get exposed to different music and then actually connect their fellow users with songs. And I think that's pretty different from what music streaming and radio services have done traditionally. And so I just want to kind of get you to weigh in with your perspective on why pictures are cool and why they might be useful for getting people to think about songs and audio?
Sure. Everyone here has heard the saying, "A picture's worth 1,000 words." We're here to say that it's worth 1,000 songs. And human beings, we're visual creatures. We process the world through imagery. We think in our mind's eye and in our memories through imagery. And we all have these associations with music, like they're burned into our memories of whether it's the first time you were at a beach bonfire all night long, or the rainy day in a coffee shop. Everyone has these associations. It's context. So we've really built a platform for people to be able to share these associations as a means of being curators and also consuming music within that context. And when I think, so I have a psychology background and a master's in business and about 10 years in music. So this is kind of like the amalgamation of everything coming together. And I feel that in terms of imagery, the way we process the world, we make gut and emotional decisions. And our goal basically is to make music discovery simpler, less work, more playful, more joyful, and allow you to think less and feel more. So, what's interesting is it introduces a good deal of subjectivity into this, because we're essentially crowdsourcing people's perceptions and associations between images and music. So there's something really cool that can be done for the playback experience. You think of where the world's going with second screens, and whether it's the dashboard in the car becoming more visual, or being able to integrate with your Apple TV, Roku. You have a party, and you have a party station, and there's images sort of reinforcing the mood of what's happening in that moment. Those are all interesting directions we're exploring. So the aggregation is through human curation, because we believe that it takes human judgment and taste and those creative associations to fuel it. But from the data side, we personalize the listening experience through mining the data and knowing that your taste, your adventurous level, let's say, might be a broad, open palette. And somebody else might be, not you, but somebody else might be more narrow. And like to deliver something that's objective for everybody doesn't make sense. So let's say there's this image of a beach in the Caribbean, and you look at it and you feel relaxed, and you go there in your mind, you want to be there. So one of our users could look at that and say, that's Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville to me. And it wouldn't necessarily be wrong, but other people will say, well, either I don't like Jimmy Buffett, or I don't think this fits with it. So what we've really given the users the tools to not only curate, but also regulate the experience. And I can sort of vote off songs and saying, no, this doesn't fit. And so these aren't static playlists, but they're rather evolving stations in real time as vetted by the community. So it's really interesting. Like the photo is more of it's a piece of durable content, and the longer it's there, and the more people that interact with it, the more it grows, and the more that we're able to personalize something to your taste. So maybe I'll hear the Jimmy Buffett song on the beach station, but one of you won't.
Okay. Now we're speaking at a data panel, David. So I'm going to have to inject some data nerd questions.
I might have to deflect, but
Okay.
go for it.
All right, here we go. You mentioned that you can seed songs into the groups of pictures.
Yeah.
So there's a picture of that beach, and you got Jimmy Buffett, Margaritaville, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I think that's a starting point. But if you want to extend the playlist,
Yeah.
have you guys talked at all about using computer vision or some other way to mine the images and start saying, oh, there's an association between this beach picture and Jack Johnson, because we all know Jack Johnson's setting is the beach.
Right.
So is that something you guys are talking about, how to supplement, augment that process, which is basically human-driven, with something that's a little bit more machine-driven.
You mean like mining the colors and the pixels of the image?
Yeah.
We haven't gotten there yet. I know that there are people doing that. I haven't seen any products at market, but I've done some sort of some pretty deep patent searches, and we actually just filed something. But in the prior art search, there is some stuff going on in that, so maybe you'll see something else come to market with it. I don't know, personal view, the beach image, blues, yellows, whites, I don't believe that through those colors you can necessarily say this is, it's not even Jack Johnson, but what's the right song?
Okay.
I think it really takes somebody who loves listening to Jack Johnson on the beach to say it's track 7 off of this record is the best fit for this image. You know, we've got this one photo, this one mood snap station that's this old rickety piano in this house that's all boarded up. There's no people in this picture, and it feels kind of lonely and like this old, worn, broken down, but a lot of character. So I'm using all like left brain language. I'm using words to describe something that when you see an image, you just process that, you feel that, and to me it just feels like Tom Waits, just sort of this like, you know, lonely piano, like the house that nobody lives in anymore kind of a thing. And you know, what I can do is I can add that song to that station, and other people can now have a conversation with me and say, hey, that is a great fit and stuff like that. But again, you know, I mean, coming back to the data, when users say, I don't like this song in this context, these are all feedback mechanisms they can give. I don't like this, or I want to favorite it. We're learning bits about them. We know where they are when they're doing certain things. We know time of day. And there's certain, you know, contextual things that there are other mood and activity-based apps that have kind of dug into that, you know, that map more of that stuff. And I think the more someone uses it, it creates a personal taste profile to know when I get up in the morning, show me these 4 stations, whether it's images or the name of whatever, you know, cooking my bacon playlist, you know.
I can see Tom Waits being on in the morning too.
To cook and bacon?
Yeah. It's the morning
The
after a
Wooden
great
Dogs
night.
stuff, yeah. Yeah. You know, there's some of the other mood-based services there. Some are expertly curated. Some are user curated, where they're building in 8 tracks. You know, I love the app. They do. You know, a user makes an individual playlist, and it's, you know, hashtagged with all this different stuff. So I can type in acoustic morning and breakfast, but I'll probably get 1,000 stations that users have made. So how do I now mine through that? That's a lot of work. I have to just listen and hope it's going to fit my taste. So we just show you what sort of waking up on a snowy winter's morning looks like, or sort of, you know, making bacon in the kitchen. And our goal is that what I hear as playback on that station is different from what someone else hears, because the app really knows me and understands me. And that's all in the data. And whether it's doing, you know, collaborative filtering by users saying this fits, this doesn't fit, and stuff like that, or more, you know, deep learning and the higher level stuff, you know, we certainly have a ways to go and grow with that. It's something that we're very interested in. We just haven't scratched the surface on it yet.
Okay. Oscar, how can you improve Pandora? Can you throw in some pictures of beaches and pianos? Can you start to get contextual information? I think Songza, I don't know if that's what you had in mind, David, but they've been pushing the time of day,
Yeah.
what day it is,
Yeah.
and all these kinds of information. And it's quote unquote context. I mean, it's pretty obvious kind of information, but it's fundamentally thinking about what else is there that I can take a look at to figure out what to play for you. What sorts of data can you start to think about? What data have you thought about to improve fundamentally this service that millions of people know and certain ones love?
The first thing is that we constantly improve Pandora every day, every night we process things, and the next day hopefully it's more and more personalized, or we learn every night. So, you know, even only using our internal data, we have like a huge amount of billions of thumbs and millions of songs that are very accurately annotated. But if you're asking for external data, well, of course, like context awareness, like geolocation, where are you now, or you need to write like a Half Moon Bay or the beach, Jack Johnson then, or so like like geolocation is very important. Yeah, I mean time of the day as well. I mean there's all this context information is really important. But if we look more, I don't know, more in the future, many years from now, there's the smart watch, like the wearables and stuff. Maybe like a microchip under my skin that knows my blood pressure, my health, and
Right.
and I'm happy, I'm sad. Okay, Pandora plays you the right song according to your biological some schooling.
So you're matching up mood eventually? Because I just thought,
I just made up
we were
that.
talking about this actually, and I want to get to this a little bit more with wearables later, but let me just go further. Are you talking about mood and saying, oh, Jordan's excited right now, play him, junior, senior, or something like that? Or are you talking about, yeah, we're dropping in as many music references as possible, by the way. Or are you talking about ultimately beat? If I am running,
Yeah.
do I want to hear something different and a song that's faster paced?
Yeah, I mean, even given the current data that we have, we can kind of infer kind of the activity. If you listen to a station at 6 p.m., like whatever, hard rock, or I mean, we can infer that you might be workout. So even, I mean, we do some work using internal data. In terms of physiological, like you're matching BPM with your heart rate. I think, I was a founder of a company back in 2007 in Barcelona, and we did that, a product for Yamaha called Bodybeat. It didn't succeed that much, but still, I mean, it's things that are not difficult to do. And back then, was interested and was launched in Japan. But yeah, I mean, of course, match your heart rate with the song, or create like a playlist that starts slower and then goes up in terms of BPM, and then you can keep the pace and then go down. Yeah, all that makes totally sense. Yeah.
Or you can be like Nike, which licensed musicians to, or paid for musicians to make music that did just that. I remember De La Soul actually had this song, this really long, maybe half-hour song that went through different cycles and started off really slow. It was guided toward running and got faster, and supposedly to make you really slow down and make sure you have a solid workout. It actually slowed down at the very end as well with the beat. So I just think you got to be able to improve on that. That's pretty freaking manual to do.
Thanks.
I also think, though, it's important, as a company with your vision, that you don't try to go in too many directions. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. And maybe or maybe not, that's the right direction for Pandora. Maybe that's a single product, that there is an app, and when you go, there's a gyroscope, and I'm running at different speeds, or I'm doing different levels of activity, and it's monitoring things, and that's what it does. It does one thing, and it does it very well. And I think sometimes, companies can start to sort of dilute that value proposition of what they offer to users and how they market it, and you don't really know why to go to something for a specific thing. And these are choices that we think about all the time, because we're sort of writing the rules as we go here, and every month or so there's new features, and we've killed off things, and it's being sort of mercifully focused on vision. And if Pandora's vision is data-driven discovery, and not from 30 million songs, but a very expertly curated, targeted list of 1.5 to 2 million, and finding better ways to give people radio experiences, then that's great. So I don't know, my 2 cents on that.
Okay. Jennifer, I know that because I went to the SF Music Tech Summit yesterday, and I'm still excited from it. I know that you guys just came out with a new version of SoundHound, and is there some wearable component to that?
Well, there is indeed. So we came out with 6.3 of our app, so for Android and iOS, and which is quite exciting. All sorts of UI enhancements and different new features in it. It's kind of tied to a back-end release that most users would be unaware of, but it's actually quite exciting. But also kind of in tandem with that, we have the Casio G-Shock watch. So you can be out wearing your Casio G-Shock and sound-hounding songs and sharing it with your friends directly from your watch, which is really cool. I have to get one. I wish I had one today, because it's a really cool idea.
So wearable glass is also quite cool.
Okay. All
Oh, that's awesome.
right.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? Were you going to say something?
Well, I was thinking about this before the panel today, where glasses are going. I mean, whether it's contextual. I'm on your shoe here. It's glasses with a front-facing camera that takes a picture and algorithmically analyzes the colors of the environment, and boom, you have a playlist or some sort of soundtrack to your moment. That could happen. I think as more and more things, watches, where your heart rate, skin temperature, motion, it all sort of fits the context of what we're doing in that moment, and music is that thing that amplifies, how we feel, how we want to feel. It could even be a curative, prescriptive thing. So if I'm wearing my watch and I haven't, maybe it's an activity thing, and I haven't gotten up in enough, a few hours, my heart rate hasn't gone over 75 in 3 hours, and all of a sudden music starts playing in my ears and saying, get up and go do something. But I think that's really, it excites me the most of where things can potentially go from here with services, such as SoundHound, to pick, contextual cues from your environment, songs around you, someone singing in a bar, you press a button on your watch and all of a sudden that song's in your library. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a little bit more. How do you improve SoundHound and start to use the cues from a smartwatch? Do you see that happening anytime soon?
Well, I believe, from my standpoint on the back end, I sit on giant piles of data, and I see all sorts of things. There's the contextual things, where you're at. You've got your watch on, you happen to be at a sporting event, they're playing, something in the sound system, and you're doing it there. You can attach it to all sorts of related things, to that. We also do recognition of streaming. So, like, if you're listening to the radio and it's on your favorite show, we actually work with Westwood One, so it recognizes that you're listening to that. You could actually get a playlist from there, all the contextual things. And we have, for anybody who has their lat long turned on your phone, we have your location. So there's all sorts of locations-based stuff too. It's like, and we have, we're working with touch tunes. So you're in a bar and somebody's playing some great tunes, you could actually maybe get the playlist of your evening out with the gang from. And so there's all sorts of things that you could do with it. It's quite exciting, and all data driven basically from the back end.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing I want to say is, and this was a theme yesterday at the Music Summit, that I think it's our responsibility as companies who are gathering immense forms of data on music, how, where, when, and why it's congested, that is filtered back to the artists in some way, because it creates more value for the music business, the whole ecosystem. It allows an artist to know that they're being sound-hounded in, Cleveland more than anywhere else, and all of a sudden I can start booking tour dates based on where people are organically discovering my music. That has been very non-transparent up until this point, and I think it's vital to the success of this business, because without the artists having healthy, sustainable careers and having more eyes and intelligence on how to effectively tour and market their music, there's not going to be much for our companies to ingest and help people discover.
Yeah.
So you're basically talking not about a data-driven jukebox, but a data-driven rock band.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the future is clearly in the data, but it's how that data is used is really important. And it's not all for, improving our user experience or making our APIs more robust to the company's bottom lines. It has to filter down to where the creators, where that music is coming from. And by adding more value to what they do, it adds more value to what we do.
In this sense, Pandora, of course, we have like billions of data points. I'm particularly happy and excited about this product that we recently launched, like Pandora AMP, or artist marketing platform, that we're really helping, the artists, giving back some information about what are the user base, demographics, or which are the songs that spin the most, that people love it. So all this data, I think it's really interesting. It's been a huge success so far. Like big artists are using this, but also like more long tail artists. I just got an email today from one of the organizers of SF Music Tech, has a band and a very cool album. He sent me an email today like, yeah, just try AMP and it's so great. I have this amount of plays and this amount of stations created, and that's very cool. So I think giving back all this data, provide useful information for the artists so they can, trace their California touring route, or help them as much as we can. I think that's really a good value also for not only users, Juke, but the rock bands also are benefiting from this data analysis. And
Jennifer?
Just an additional point on that I think is interesting is that music recognition service like ours, we actually see when bands and songs are breaking in different places well before anybody else does. We know, and that's an interesting thing, especially to surface it back through something like you guys have as a dashboard. It would be nice if maybe there was a communal effort amongst the companies to provide that for the bands, because right now we give that to the labels, but it's even more value to the bands themselves, so they have more leverage, especially the smaller bands.
I was going to say, I haven't seen that, Oscar, so I don't know what it looks like. Is it just a cool UI, or what does it look like? Because I just want to extrapolate a little bit and imagine what things will look like in the future. Will musicians go to a data scientist or local area data scientist and say, hey, I have all this data from Spotify, from Pandora about usage. What should we put on our next album? I need to know. Where should we go on the tour? So suddenly that really, data-driven rock band, you guys, start tweeting it. Is this one thing that will come out eventually over time, where the musicians themselves, the content creators, will start to have a better sense of what to do based on usage of services?
I don't think I quite get the question, but so you mentioned two things, like based on Spotify, Pandora data, which album to record next. So I think the creation part is very particular to the artist, and they should have the freedom, not being biased towards their audience, being able to create like U2 Joshua Tree, and then Afton Baby and Breaking. They're artists, and it's a creative process. So I would split between this thing of what the album that will get more plays or will be more successful for us. We have Taylor Swift that let them do this. But of course, like help them, as I said, help them. Maybe they're big in Minnesota and they have no idea, or like in Alaska. Okay, let's tour in Alaska. I will do that. It's always freezing from Barcelona, so it's always called California for me. But like let's go to some place and it's discover new places. So I think in this sense, I see more, as Jennifer said, like integrating data sources from different companies and then get the whole view. I think that will be really, really interesting for them.
I know that I have become a data-driven journalist. I know what brings in the page views. And I don't write about things that no one wants to read about or no one is reading about. I mean, I have to be open to new things. And I think that's a challenge, actually. But I would like to think I'm fairly creative. And I would think that it would be in my best interest to maximize outcomes and keep my boss happy, and keep food on the table, to make sure that I'm creating the stuff that people want to read based on what the actual, dashboard of web traffic looks like.
Yeah.
And so I would just challenge you a little bit. I mean, do you really think that and I'm sure that the music people are going to totally go and want to yell at me about this, but basically, will there be a time when that evolves, when yes, people can be creative, but at the same time, people might start to say, what's trending on all the streaming services? What's trending on all the radios right now?
Well, the first thing is, I think you're doing very well as long as you put deep learning on the title. You know, we have huge amount of views.
Actually, this story didn't have deep learning, sorry, but I have done that, committed that crime many times already.
So yeah, for other questions. Oh, you want to?
I don't know. I'll plug somebody I know in Boston. His name is CJ Carr. You can look him up. He's got a company called DataBots. Brilliant musician and programmer, and he makes purely algorithmic created music. And he would push back very hard to say that a big genre of the future is non-human music curation. And he writes algorithms and code to make electronic music. It's all electronic. But I think he sort of mines what's popular out there in electronic music and certain kinds of beats and time signatures. And he has machines create these loops and build this stuff. And it sounds super organic. It sounds really good. And I think there is maybe something there. And maybe it is electronic music and it's a live experience of people getting together and dancing, and it's not more of like the organic band, because the creative process is so important. And I think when bands really, what really wins in this world and when the cream flows to the top is when a band is authentic, original to their voice, and doing something that really speaks to people because it comes from the heart, it comes from an organic place. And if you pander to the public, whether it's, oh, this is now popular, so I'm going to write music like this, or looking at the data and saying, even if you break down the track, I mean, I look at what SoundCloud does with their comments, and you can see at 37 seconds, 300 people said this and this, and you can say, oh, the pre-chorus here people don't really love, but the chorus is great. And so, maybe you could take those kinds of comments and aggregate them and deliver them in some data processing way, and tell a band, hey, here's your last album, here's what peaked, here's what people didn't resonate with, and maybe there's a certain kind of music that can sort of, I don't know, pander is the right word, but like use that to make informed creative choices. And then there's other ones who are artists who completely reinvent themselves with every record, and like Beck, everyone's waiting to see what he does next with every record. No one's looking for the certain same sound or him to come off with something that feels relevant to what, the new Lumineers record is not going to sound like the Beck record. So, and people love him for that, and he has a real career and real fans. So, I think it's important.
So you're saying there's going to be the non-data-driven rock band, which is basically the rock band that has existed from time without beginning.
That will always be there. That's the core of music. That's not going to change. But as technology evolves and as our eyes into the intelligence evolves, I think there are ways to learn from that in the creative process. But there are certainly ways to create purely data-driven music that emotionally resonates, because it's measuring the right things, and it's creating things that that hit in the right places.
Okay. I want to open it up for questions at this point and see if other people want to ask our panelists anything in particular.
This is maybe a question for Oscar. The Genome project is understood to be a description of the content, much more than behavior. But when you really look at how Pandora generates lists, you've got a substantial amount of behavioral data they used, and you can really see that between in the same class, some of the songs are obviously not related or similar in terms of description. Just wanted to have a comment on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, contrary to like, what's that? Okay. The question I think is like how Pandora works somehow. The question is like, I'll give you all the details after tomorrow. The thing is that, I mean, the question was mainly Pandora, the Music Genome Project. We've been annotating songs for 14 years, but there's like a lot of human behavior or feedback, I would say, and then sometimes you play a song and it's clearly not similar to the seed song, seed artist, and then how are we dealing with these two components? Actually, we're combining both. So as I said, we have like over 45 billion songs. I like this, I hate that. So we're combining both the content-based similarity. So actually, Jordan mentioned that in the beginning. We have like 50 different approaches, and some of them are content-based, based on genome, plus the machine listening, machines that roughly annotate music. But we also do combine that, and we use a lot the signals from the users. So if you know that people don't like this song, and it's all personalized to me. I hate this Radiohead song on whatever YouTube station. Then we learn from that. So it's a pure combination of different approaches: the content-based one, what we call collective intelligence or quality filtering, aggregating all this knowledge from thumbs up, thumbs down, and then also personalizing according to your profile and what you like and what you don't like. So yeah, we do use this explicit feedback a lot.
So my question's for you. My question is about the evolution of getting that data back to the artist. So in streaming, like you can see on SoundCloud or on Bandcamp how many times people played something. But if people download your album, you don't know what they played or how many times. So do you foresee something in the tech space where you'll be able to capture that data, like they played track 3 1 million times, but skip track 5? And then being able to bring that data back to the artist so they know when people download it, this was what was popular.
Great question, and yeah, I think it's any company's responsibility to find a way to filter that data back to the artist, because everyone has it. Whether you're the on-demand streaming services, Spotify, RDO, and such. iTunes has it with their